Hot take. Ohio State finishes third or worse in the Big Ten East this year, Chris.
So
what are you thinking?
I'm fucking torn on this. I thought about this a lot. Not even that we were having this hot take. It was just in my post or preseason rankings here where I think teams finish. I got another month yet, but I was really looking at this crazy division, which we call the Big Ten in a weird way because it's so heavy on the one side, right? You got Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. And I think right now I have Ohio State beating Penn State. I don't think Ohio State beats Michigan this year. I don't. I know that may seem crazy, but I don't. I think Michigan's the best team in the Big Ten this year. And I don't want to say it's not even close, but I truly do. Michigan brings back a lot of pieces. J.J. McCarthy, if he does what he did last year was enough to get by Ohio State, and Ohio State doesn't have C.J. Stroud now, he's definitely going to be better this year, I think. And that's where I'm just like, Ohio State, they lost some guys in the NFL draft on the offensive line. We could say that about every team. I know that, but they do have Marvin Harrison Jr. coming back, which is, that guy's a stud. I don't have to talk about him much. But I think Ohio State, and maybe I'm going to piss some Ohio State people off here when I say this, Ohio State to me is soft. They've been soft for quite a while now. It's been a while. Especially on the defensive side of the ball at times. And I know everybody in the comment section is going to tell me, oh, did you watch the fucking playoff game against Georgia? We were a field goal away. Well, Georgia also missed 2 field goals in that game, too, if you didn't mistaken. C.J. Stroud played the best game that I had ever seen him play, Christian, in that was amazing what he was doing in that game. It was. Against a crazy good Georgia defensive team.
You're exactly right. I mean, listen, I'll say this, dude. As a Georgia fan, I was really impressed with what Ohio State was able to do. I mean, you guys ultimately should have won that game, right? So that's kind of why I feel like I have to stick up for you guys in this, right?
Right.
I know a lot of people are kind of pissed off about the Javon Bullard crunch punch, on Marvin Harrison. I don't think it. Again, there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of controversy with that. Depends on what side of it you're on. Again, I digress. But looking at it from this standpoint, you're absolutely right, dude. C.J. Stroud is gone.
Yeah.
And this puts Ohio State / Ryan Day, right? Ryan Day in newfound territory. He's got a true quarterback controversy on his hands. I mean, ever since he's taken over, he's had Fields, then he transfers to Stroud. Now they've got to figure out. This is the first time he's legitimately had to make a decision on a quarterback since he's been there. So, for me, it's between Devin Brown and Kyle McCord, which I think McCord's kind of got the inside track for it. Maybe both these guys are probably going to play this year. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Michigan, not that long ago, right? When Michigan had that whole controversy with their quarterbacks with McNamara and McCarthy.
Yeah, I will add to this too, and I haven't finished up here, and I wanted just to hear your kind of thoughts on Ohio State last year. Sure. You're right, C.J. Stroud, that guy was a stud, and we know that Ohio State, like Christian just said, it's like plug and play there. But under Ryan Day, this is new. This is a new territory, like you said. I'm torn between this Penn State and Ohio State game. I think Penn State is going to be better with Drew Allar this year. I truly do, and I can go through the list of reasons why. The only thing is the quarterback play is going to come down to me this year, as we just talked about for Ohio State. Their defense, I think, needs to get more physical. Personally, I know they play in the Big Ten, but Ryan Day I know he's a damn good offensive mind. I know he's a damn good coach, and he's a damn good recruiter. That's proven. That's facts. I get that. I'm torn yet because I think Penn State, this might be it for James Franklin. I think he almost has to get it done after 10 years there, Christian. He hasn't won the Big Ten since 2016. I think the Ohio State game is the most likely win he could have out of these two. Crazy stat for you, by the way. Penn State has only beaten Michigan and Ohio State in the same season twice. They've had that same schedule, both of them in there 26 times. So it's about, 7.5%, 8% chance of doing so. But I'm big on Penn State this year. And we'll talk more about them, I think, as the season, is coming up here. But I really, truly think Ohio State, this is kind of like, I don't want to say panic territory. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not trying to piss anybody off from Ohio State, nor do I really give a shit. But here I am. I actually think Penn State can do this, man. And like I said, before I come out with my preseason rankings, which don't mean shit, I actually more leaning towards Penn State pulling this off, and it's not necessarily Michigan. There could be some slip-ups, Christian, but I actually think there's a chance this year because Michigan's got a lot of people coming back, quarterback included. Penn State, I know, does have a different quarterback there, but he has played some too as well. I just don't see how this Ohio State team is like locked and loaded for a playoff run this year. I just don't. I don't see it. I think they're going to be obviously a top 10 program this year, but I just, with the Big Ten and that side, man, I just don't see it happening. I really don't, the more and more I think about it.
Wow. I think that you bring up a lot of good points, and on paper I think they make sense, but let's get into it, motherfucker. Because I'm ready to defend some butt nuts right now, man. I'm ready to go.
God, here we go. Jesus.
Look, man, they need to get a lot of stuff figured out pretty quickly on in the season, right? I mean, Michigan is going to be really good this year. They got a ton of pieces coming back. They have arguably one of the best running back rooms in the country. Penn State, and you touched on them, right? They have a great group of running backs, and they have an uber talented young quarterback in Drew Aller. He's a 5-star player. He was a top 5 pick, or a top 5 player in the country coming out of high school. Here's the thing, though. Defensive coordinator Jim Knowles, right? He's going to be in his second year here. He's going to have him playing better this year, man. Especially in big games. I got a feeling they're tired of this narrative kind of going on, right? I want to scroll down here, and I'm just going to look at the defensive side of the ball for just a second. Okay, let's look at the front seven here, dude. This guy right here balled out last year. Old JT, Ty Hamilton, I think he's going to be good. Michael Hall, he balled out last year. Then we get into the linebackers. This to me is one of the best parts of this team. Jack Sawyer, Tommy Eichenberg, Still Chambers, right? Then we get into the back half of it. Josh Proctor, Denzel Burke, Cameron Martinez. Like, these guys played pretty good last year, right? I mean, they did. It's going to be interesting to me. Like I said, I think defensively they're going to be much better this year. Here's the other side of it too, right? I wanted to start off with that so then we can get into the more sexy side of this here. Ohio State has one of the best running back rooms in the country. I know I just said Michigan does, but
Penn State's up there.
And Penn State does too, but Ohio State is up there as well, right? You got to look at Mayan Williams and Travion Henderson.
Henderson's a stud. I agree.
They've got some guys. I mean, you could argue like they were a 3-headed monster last year, dude. It doesn't matter. They're going to keep churning and burning. Then you go back and you look at, by the way, who they have coming back at the wide receiver position.
Oh, yeah.
Marvin Harrison Jr., Julian Fleming. So I remember this kid's he was a very highly recruited guy.
He's only tore his ACL like 6 times, but yeah, he's a fucking stud. So is Abekwa, or however you say his name. He's a stud too.
Emeka Abuka, I think is how you say his name. Yep. So I finally got that right. I'm not going to lie to you. I couldn't pronounce the defensive end's name, but I could pronounce that kid's name. So, yeah, that to me, they've got one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country.
I put him up there. Yep.
You look at the tight end, Cade Stover. He put up a respectable season last year. He might be one of the best, outside of a couple people, he might be one of the best tight ends in the country this year, too. The biggest question mark, and you touched on it, is who's going to play quarterback for him. I think either one of these kids, they were 4-star athletes. If one thing Georgia proved for the last 2 years, if you've got a really talented roster around you, it doesn't matter what your stars say, it just matters how you produce. Really and truly. So, with that being said, and I think Ohio State is one of the more talented rosters in all of college football. Dude, I think the worst case scenario here is they finish second in the division.
Okay.
I don't think there's any way. Okay. I don't think there's any way that they lose to both Michigan and Penn State. Hell, they might just beat Michigan this year and snap a 2-game skid against the Wolverines, right? And to get back to being the best team in the Big Ten. Because for all the reasons I just mentioned, can you make the same argument that Penn State is as deep as what I just said?
No, I can't. But here's the thing, and I'm like I said, I wanted to, dig deep into this, dude, and maybe it's because I'm not an Ohio State truther, like I know you are deep down. No, you're not wrong. Ohio State could win the Big Ten. It absolutely. I'd be fucking retarded to come on here and say that they couldn't. I just think this year, man, it's Penn State's year. I do. I actually, the more and more I read, the more and more I do some digging deep into this, and, like I said, my opinion, your opinion really don't mean shit in the landscape of stuff, but This was an interesting hot take. This is why we like doing this, why we like having these arguments. I think there's a 50% shot that they do finish third or worse. And I don't think worse. I think they finish right behind Penn State and Michigan. Yeah, you're right, though. You want to point it out there, roster for roster on paper? Yeah, Ohio State probably roster for roster is probably top 3 or 4 in the country. I mean, with the talent they have, and you want to add up stars and go down that road, absolutely. But the big thing to me is the quarterback position. And I think that's where they're going to probably have to rely, Christian, on those running backs a little bit more than we've seen in years past. I think people dismiss how C.J. Stroud, really how good that guy really was. And that's kind of where I'm at. I think he won them some games, put them in a position to beat you guys last year in a playoff game. That was a lot of C.J. Stroud, man. He did it with his legs, which I think surprised a lot of people last year. You know, I know C.J. Stroud can throw the ball. There's a reason why he was the 3rd pick in the draft or whatever. I mean, I get it, man. I think he's going to have a lot of success. I actually think he'll be pretty good with the Texans. But overall, I think Penn State has a chance to kind of disrupt this. And I'm really leaning towards putting Penn State on doing it this year. And I might look like a fool, but I'll come on here and admit it. Unlike you'll hide behind that Georgia banner like you do every week. And here we are. No. Good take, though, Christian. Overall, man, I don't have much to add to it. I like your take. Like I said, I think it could be either or here, man. I really, truly do.